Welcome to the final episode of When the Smoke Clears, a special 4-part video series we are bringing to Hoosier Homeland listeners in audio form. Brought to you by the Indiana Department of Homeland Security. I'm your host, Bridget Campbell, the IDHS Digital Communications Coordinator, and today our panelists are concluding their important discussion on mental health and first responders by focusing specifically on recognizing the signs of mental stress among firefighters and knowing when to step in to offer support. As this episode discusses mental health challenges, including signs of mental stress and struggles faced by first responders, some viewers may find the content hard to listen to. If you or someone you know is in need of support, please seek help from a mental health professional or contact the resources provided in the description of this episode. In previous episodes, we've seen how conversations about mental health are becoming more accepted within the Indiana Fire Service and across the nation. Leaders are increasingly prioritizing the well-being of their teams, understanding that mental health is as vital as physical health. Breaking down the barriers and stigmas surrounding mental health is not just beneficial. It's essential for a resilient fire service. Today, IDHS Executive Director Joel Thacker will guide our panelists of experts, including Indiana State Fire Marshal Steve Jones, President of the Professional Firefighters Union of Indiana, Tony Murray, Pike Township firefighter Troy Clemens, and mental health expert Dr. Bob Smith. Together, they'll share their experiences and insights on how to identify when a fellow firefighter is struggling and what actions can be taken to help. To learn more about first responder mental health and access additional resources, visit on.in.gov/responder-mental-health. You can watch or listen to the entire When the Smoke Clears series on our YouTube channel at on.in.gov/smoke-clears. Now, let's dive into today's discussion.
Thank you again for joining us in our mental health series, When the Smoke Clears. We want to continue talking about this issue of mental health crisis for firefighters, EMTs, and really all first responders. In this fourth and final installment, with our experts here, we'll talk about warning signs for crisis. Is the firefighter or paramedic next to you experiencing normal fallout, or is she or he having a mental health crisis? What do we need to look for to indicate that something is wrong? And when do we step in and encourage someone to ask for help? These are important questions for us to keep in mind as we protect our brothers and sisters on the job. I hope the panel can help us all better understand when to act when things have reached a boiling point and when professional services are needed. Let's get into it. Welcome back to episode 4. This time we're going to talk about what are the signs that maybe your fellow brother or sister in the firehouse, your fellow coworker in EMS is struggling. And so what are those signs that letting us know they need some help? And Dr. Bob, we talked a little bit about in our jobs as first responders, we're not going to be able to shield ourselves from seeing what I call, the worst of humanity. Mm-hmm. And so understanding that and working through that, knowing that we may have challenges from time to time, what are some of those signs that as a coworker, as another firefighter, staff member, I'm recognizing and saying, hey, I think my friend's in trouble?
Okay. Well, I think that's twofold. I think there are things that you should recognize in yourself, and Troy will probably talk about that, but I think we live together. So I think keeping watch over each other. If somebody's more irritable, I talk a lot, both when I do psychoeducational work with patients and clients, and when I teach. It's important that we understand that baseline is important, just like a baseline blood pressure or pulse. So whatever their baseline behavior is, for example, are they more irritable? Are there performance problems? And a supervisor should be listening for that and monitoring that. Are there habits? Are the habits changed? One of the things that's very interesting in a fire station is that you'll have the guy that, has his routine. And I think all of us can see that. And one of the obvious things is, Joe goes to bed at 10 o'clock every night, and he's setting up all night. He is on the phone. He's isolating himself. So it's kind of, firefighters are trained in, what's different, what's going to get us. And one of the things that helps and hurts us is that the brain has a negative bias. So firefighters, public safety, we're looking for anything that's bad. We don't take care of each other and ourselves because we're looking for what's going to get us. So changes in the fire station, performance, isolation, habits, irritability.
Mm-hmm. And I think that baseline is important. And, I think the fire station architecture has changed, right? So if we think about the fire stations when we grew up, we were all in the living space together and we all had a big bunk area. Well, now firefighters can retreat to their own private suite sometimes so how can we ensure that we're monitoring and maybe what's going on in some of the fire stations or some information for company officers and chiefs to know is you need to have some engagement.
Yeah, the thing that I hear a lot from public safety folks that come in and talk to me is that, we don't sit out front anymore. We don't spend time together anymore. And this isn't, let's bash technology and social media. This is understanding that we need to watch out for the hazards. If we don't see these people because they're in their own corner, we don't notice it. So I think the first logical place with that is training the company officer and then training the troops.
And I think mandatory dinner, that everybody at dinner time sits down at the dinner table. Where else are you going to really see the true person, and if somebody's resistant to not sitting down and eating dinner with the rest of the crews, again, there might be an indication something's going on there. You've been okay up to this point, 3 or 4 years into it, now this person doesn't want to eat dinner with anybody.
Mm-hmm. And I think that we went through a period of time too where, management was like, you got to be busy all the time. You got to be doing stuff. You got to, well, you know what? It's okay to play a board game, play checkers or something at the firehouse, play cards, because it's more than the game. It's actually, that is a process. That is resiliency. That is something that we're doing. It's not just a waste of time. That's an engagement piece, I think. I think that's important. It's the way those old guys used to do. They used to sit in the bay and play cards.
Now it's pickleball.
That's right, yeah.
My thing that I do is, as a company officer, this is no disrespect to my bosses, so don't hold this against me, but I don't hang out in my office. I don't like my office. I sit at the kitchen table. I bring my office to the kitchen table and I sit up there. And it's because, the biggest reason is because of that right there. I want to see my people. The other thing is like and noticing signs in myself, I isolated a lot. When it really got bad, I really isolated a lot. Chief Thacker talked about, you could go, we have our own suites in the firehouse now, and I would go back into my room because I had my own little wing of the fire station that was the officer's wing, if you call it, or something. But I'd go back in there and I'd cry my eyes out a lot and then go wash my face. Nobody knows the wiser. And I found I was isolating more. I found firefighters and EMS and law enforcement, we like dark humor. We could all agree with that a little bit. And sometimes that's how we cope with it, is we joke a lot. What I noticed myself doing was I'd have a lot of dark humor. And that's all I would come out with. And we'd be cutting up with it or something like that, or we'd laugh and we'd joke. And it wasn't that I was trying to be funny. It was, honestly, it was a cry for help. Because that's all I saw was dark. It wasn't that I was trying to be a smart aleck or be one of the gang or something. That's just really what I saw. And so now I look for that into people. Yelling a lot, we talked about that. I yelled at my family a lot. I yelled at the people that I love more than anything in this world, my family, my brother and sister firefighters. I love them a lot. And I yelled at them. And because I couldn't get a win. All I wanted was one win. Even if it was just picking what kind of socks I wear that day, I was looking for a win. And so those are some of the kind of things that you can look for that I found in myself. Having people be, if your folks come in, they're tired all the time. Well, maybe it's because they're waking up all night with nightmares. I did. And then, so how did you get rid of it? You drank. Look at, if somebody says they don't have a lot of money and they're a single 20-something-year-old and they're making a firefighter salary now and they have no bills, why wouldn't they have, and you see those things. So a lot of it is just being like a good medic, a good EMT, noticing what's normal so that when something's not normal, we can pick it out. And isolation was one of the biggest ones, and anger was one of the biggest for me.
I think that we have a good virtue in the fire service is that we do spend time with each other. We're generally regular crew or, have a sub in or whatever, but we generally spend the 24 hours together on a regular basis. That enables us to get to know each other and know what's going on in people's lives. I'll just share this brief story about just little things that matter. And this has been a while ago, but my dad died suddenly, unexpectedly. And after I came back, my first shift after burying him was a cardiac arrest, unattended, in bed. And that was exactly how my dad died. My crew knowing what I just went through, enabled them to say, hey, Tony, why don't you go get the stuff off and they made entry first, and, the person was deceased anyway. And so we'll get the paperwork, where it should have been my run to do. But that's a good example of just knowing what's going on in people's lives. You can really make a big difference. And that's something I'll never forget.
When you have your family members, one thing my wife noticed with me is after a pediatric death that this really hurt. I struggled I couldn't go down kids' toy aisles if it was a little girl's aisle with Barbie dolls or anything, or princess outfits and things like that. And it took a little bit of while, and she finally got that out of me what it was. But noticing those subtle changes, behaviors,
those triggers. I mean, I think all of us maybe just when we think about the triggers. I was at a home invasion shooting fire on Thanksgiving Day. I will never view Thanksgiving the same as I used to. Sitting down at the table is difficult because I remember that run.
And so we're seeing, what some of these red flags are, but really as we think about, again, company officers, chief officers, recognizing that and then having the courage then to engage. What do we think are some good times? And Troy, maybe back to you. What would have been some times as you were struggling at the firehouse where you think, maybe a company officer or someone else, when would have been a good time to engage with you and talk to you about that and have that initial conversation about getting some help?
Over a cup of coffee. And it's not even a confrontational kind of thing. We always have coffee at the firehouse. I mean, I never drank coffee before I became a firefighter, but I drink the heck out of it now. So, just saying. Or as you go on a walk or something, and then you kind of just meander it in there. It's like, I kind of like the words challenge with compassion. If it gets that bold, and I've had to do that before where I just say, I love you. And they're like, huh? And I'd be like, No, really. It's like, I care about you. I really do. And I'm doing this because I love you. And that usually gets people to open up a little bit when you start out with that versus going, hey, dude, why are you acting like this? You know, why are you being this way? Seriously? Is this what we're doing? You know, a lot of it is if you challenge with compassion, and it just goes back to the basic human nature. Everything starts in your heart. It really does. And you start with it like that, and you got to walk the walk a little bit. You got to be into the job too, and that's everything that goes with it, good, bad, and the ugly. And when they see that, they'll open up to you. And just a lot of times, Dr. Bob admitted to it, we just want to be around somebody that knows us, and we want to talk, because I like to talk, obviously. But you just got to show them that they can talk. And then boom, you'll be amazed what you hear.
So how about this, Troy? So if you're the person that's going to make that check-in, right? You're going to have that conversation, you're going to check in. What if they say, no, it's fine, or blow you off, or say, I don't need anything? That's to be expected, right?
Sure,
like,
absolutely.
So
I'm good.
Don't have any illusion they're going to go, well, I was wondering when you were going to ask.
Yeah,
you know, they might say, you know, hey, no, I'm good. It's going to take a few times, maybe, of that check.
And they'll find you.
Right, exactly.
They know that at least you're approachable, that they can call you back. You know, it's like, you know, we talked the other day, I do need to.
They will find you,
yeah.
100%.
Again, back to kind of the peer support groups and some of the training. I imagine, you know, a lot of times we say peer support groups are here, and then individuals that need help go to them. How do we train ourselves? You know, how do we learn really to have those conversations?
Well, our peer support folks are really good about trying to educate admin, company officers, and I think we do a scenario every quarter, and we say that peer support is by invitation only. We don't pressure people. We always acknowledge that we're here because we've been invited. Our scenarios usually start with the captain has talked to so-and-so and agreed to meet with peer support. Could you follow up? So that's how our interactions typically start. Also, whenever we're in the station, oftentimes we're followed out into the parking lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's the meeting after the meeting.
Exactly.
Yes, the dumpster walk.
Exactly. So multifaceted question.
Yeah. Any, you know, as we kind of wrap up the episode, any closing comments that you all feel are important for those watching to take away from this?
I think the opportunity is there to continue to grow this peer support program, to keep removing the stigma, for the fire service to do all those things about what the brotherhood is all about, looking out for each other. If we're going to be successful, we do it better together than if we isolate. And I think that's where I think we just need to keep moving this thought, these resources, and really the true meaning of what brotherhood is, interested in each other and our families. And even whenever we might have to have that uncomfortable conversation, no, it's okay to have that, and that we can help make people's lives like you feel like you're worth something. We want you in the organization. I think all that's important.
You know, I think this is an exciting time. We've really gotten to the point where we're openly talking about this, one. Number two, the psych data has been claimed by the neuroscientists. So Tony talked about a broken arm. I have a functional MRI scan that I have in my office that shows firefighter with PTSD, firefighter in treatment with EMDR, was that treatment, and firefighter post-treatment. So I think it's going to eventually be a job injury. And something that we can, now, is everybody going to be able to go out and get a functional MRI? Probably not. But if we educate on this, we'll see that that's no different than a broken arm, looking at an x-ray of an obvious fracture.
You know, and I think we press a lot about physicals for our body, getting a cardiac workup, getting other blood work. And I've talked before is not just the need annually for a physical of our bodies, but also our brains. And I always encourage folks, whether you think you need it or not, go at least once a year and have a talk with somebody, right? Even if that is just calling EAP and you just have a conversation because you don't know where that'll go, right?
He talked about the qualitative data for him. So when I went through treatment, one of the first things they did was scan my brain so that I could see, like, this is why I act the way that I do. They could see where parts of my brain were in overdrive and some weren't working based on all the repeated traumas from all those years and calls and everything. After treatment, it was totally different. You could see the qualitative change. And so to a firefighter that, you know, we're not doctors, you know, I can actually see data going, oh my gosh, there really was something that I can, holy cow, there was something that was there. And then the last thing I would leave with is that you never quit being a firefighter when you retire, ever. It's in your blood. And just because you don't get on the truck anymore doesn't mean that you still are not relevant or that you still don't count. You definitely are relevant. You definitely count. Your experiences are valid. And the next generation is longing for them. You're always welcome in our firehouses. There's always a plate of food, always a cup of coffee. And every lesson is very valid. So thank you.
Well, this is going to be the end of our discussion with these experts in the fire and EMS service on the topic of mental health for first responders. This is a top priority for public safety leaders all across our state. And on behalf of the Indiana Department of Homeland Security and all Hoosiers, we appreciate the time and expertise shared by our guests during this program. We will continue to explore ways as a state agency that we can support our brothers and sisters in the field. You can find all previous episodes of When the Smoke Clears on the IDHS YouTube channel. Until next time, thank you for joining us and stay healthy and safe.
Thank you for joining us for this final episode of When the Smoke Clears on Hoosier Homeland. We've just begun to address the critical issue of mental health among first responders, but this conversation is far from over. My deepest thanks to our panelists for their valuable insights and contributions. I would also like to thank Executive Director Joel Thacker for his assistance in moderating this panel and for his continued support of this project. Also, I would like to acknowledge all the amazing work he has done across the state as both the Indiana State Fire Marshal and IDHS Executive Director. You will be missed, but we wish you the best of luck at your new home in the Carmel Fire Department. If you'd like to learn more about this topic or find resources to support first responders, visit on.in.gov/responder-mental-health. Don't forget to explore our full catalog of episodes on Spotify, YouTube, and Pandora. You can catch up on any missed episodes at on.in.gov/Hoosier Homeland. And be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Indiana DHS to stay updated. We'll see you in our next episode. Until then, stay informed, stay prepared, and take control of your safety.